So if you are new here, welcome. If you uh, joined me in this space during the fall 2025 semester, welcome back. My name is Rachel Hanson. Uh, Before I kind of get into the course itself, just some small ground rules to kind of keep us communicating clearly along the way here. Um, If you are here because you want to comment on what a lady looks like, this is not the place for you. Um, so if that's the only reason you're here, just get out of here. Uh, excuse me. Um, you know, if you have questions or comments or things you want to contribute, put them in the chat because I'm here for that, and we can definitely talk about really like, whatever you want to talk about. Uh, Now, I'm really disappointed, honestly, that, Substack wasn't working on, on a desktop or a laptop because I had it set up really cool. So, hopefully you get to see it next week. Um, Now what we'll be doing here in this space during the spring 2026 semester, um, is my version of GLBT issues in literature. The name of the course. I try to have tea with me most weeks. Um, Especially right now. I am uh real north in North America and it's cold. So often the tea is just as much for keeping my hands warm as it is for having something pleasant to sip on. But um now this semester is really more like I would describe it as more like a guided reading. And we'll be reading two like memoir, like autobiography style books. The first is All Boys Aren't Blue, and it's a memoir manifesto by George M. Johnson. The second is called Zami, A New Spelling of My Name, and that's by Audre Lorde. So we'll be talking about those, just like a little bit. And then as kind of a third um, component of this course, um, to tie those two books together, there's typically also going to be some kind of like a journal article or something like that. Um, what I think as an instructor that is really important is for you to have kind of the knowledge and the skills that as you're talking about these issues amongst like different groups of people, that you're able to code switch effectively. Um, and, I wouldn't have really, I personally have the luxury, right, of, I mean, not really needing to code switch when I'm out there in the world. Um, I mean, it certainly wasn't really not that long ago, but this probably isn't going to be a mystery to anybody, but this space is a political space, and this is a space very specifically that views all humans as valid. Um, and I live in Minnesota, so code switching is something that um, I need to become more skilled in. So we'll be building that skill together. Um, and I see a second person joined. Hello. um, I want to pause here for a minute and just kind of sit back And no, it's not just because my back hurts a little bit. Um, like before I talk about these books and maybe kind of what you can expect over the course of the next 16 weeks. Because I wrote in the written module for, that accompanies this live lecture. Um, it almost feels more accurate to call this thing a monologue, but whatever you want to call it. Uh, I wrote that sometimes the most radically feminist thing that you can do is self care. Uh, and I continue to believe that that is true. However, um, I'm really kind of coming to this moment, this realization that self care is not that has to be a little bit more thoughtful, right? Um, that it's not just whatever, right? Like classic white lady favorites, right? Like having a bubble bath, or drinking your tea. Both of those are fine. Um, but self care has to extend out, um, in some ways away from yourself, in my opinion. My hand's getting tired, so I'm just switching hands. Uh, and so I would, if you're not thinking about this right now, that's fine. Like I'm a little embarrassed, honestly, that I am newly thinking about it. Uh, but I am. So if you are too, at least we have some company. Um, one thing that I have been has kind of been an unexpected avenue of self care for me. Um, which is a little weird. And I know, and this is especially weird because, like, here I am doing this. I'm also generally kind of a fan of short form video content. Um, I very recently had to uninstall TikTok on my phone because I was blowing our budget on the TikTok shop, which is ridiculous, but protecting myself from myself. But right, like I'll watch YouTube shorts. And something that has recently become like served up to me, that I'm really latching onto are like the creation of tiny green spaces. It started out with terrariums, right? Like watching videos of those. I might have a new hobby coming up here. um, but like kind of just think about like what are those edifying things that you can do that also um have the added critical component of making the world a slightly better place than it is right now. Oh. So I don't if you wanna share that, like, share what those things are that you do, like, in the comments, here, later on. I'd love to hear about it. Uh, and we're gonna kind of pivot now into a little bit more of the classy stuff. Um, Now the other thing as I start talking about All Boys Aren't Blue, the other thing that I really wanna talk about that I think is important this semester is, um, really the importance of oh, Clyde, I know you love music. So really the importance of kind of expanding what it is that you're exposing yourself to understand the lived perspectives of other people. Um, Now very central to George Johnson's memoir manifesto is reconciling his blackness and his queerness. Is one thing that he talks about throughout the book. Um, I am clearly not black. I am also not queer. Um, but I think that really taking the time to understand those pieces of others that they want to put out into the world, um, and how that can help us to be better humans, and better global citizens is just, gosh, it's so important. Like, words fail me to really describe how important it is. Um, yeah. Now, if you are unfamiliar with the concepts of intersectionality, I did link to a unit that we did last semester on intersectionality. You can read up all on it. Um, it is grounded in a legal framework, so it can be a little dry, but I did try to make it as exciting as I could. So, um, knock on wood. Hopefully, you don't fall asleep reading that. Um, Now, All Boys Aren't Blue. Again, just excellent read. But it is a memoir that's geared towards young adults. Um, and one thing that I think is important to talk about with this book, is that I think that a content warning is just like important to state here at the beginning. Uh, no, very specifically in chapters 11 and 15, there is some sexually explicit content, right? It's not, um, like disgusting by any means, but, um, if this is a book that you maybe were going to like recommend to somebody in your life, um, please read those chapters first, um, so that you can kind of gauge out like how is that going to go and prepare yourself if there's going to be any kind of a conversation that is, um, going to come up. That maybe is not a conversation that we have all the time, right? Um, no, it's a relatively new read. It was published in 2020, so um, yeah. Sorry, I was pausing for a second just to think like it's wild to me to think that that was 6 years ago already. Um, but in the publishing world, right, like that's pretty new. Um, Now the second text that we'll be reading again over the course of the next 16 weeks is Zami, a new spelling of my name. Um, and I actually noticed a typo in the module when I read it on Monday morning, and I haven't gone back and fixed it. But it's a biomythography by Audre Lorde. Now, Audre Lorde is a really significantly important person within the field of feminist studies. We owe a lot to her. And so I don't think that really any class is complete in this discipline if it doesn't have her in it somewhere. And she's going to be all over the place. We'll be talking about her a lot. One thing that I really like about Audre Lorde, that is also recognized in a New York Times review of this book, is, and I quote, among the elements that make the book so good are its personal honesty and lack of pretentiousness, characteristics that shine through the writing, bespeaking the evolution of a strong and remarkable character. And look at that. I noticed more typos as I was reading out loud. This is great fun. um, but that is really something that I appreciate about her. It's so easy for theory to be kind of stuffy and inaccessible, when ultimately it's one of the tools in our toolkit that can help us to understand our lived experience a little bit more fully. Um, Now this book is one that is new to me, so I'm reading it along with you. Um, Not quite in real time. I'm presently about halfway through. Now, when I wrote, right, this introduction, welcome to the class post on Substack, um, I indicated that I didn't think that a content warning for this book was going to be necessary. And I think that that was wrong of me. And that's something that I want to talk about a little bit. Um, Now, like the book itself, um, really kind of follows Audre Lorde through her life. Um, I'm about halfway through right now, and she is a young adult. So, right, presumably, I'm halfway through. The second half is going to be her life as uh, a more mature adult. But in her very early life, right, and she is growing up in the 30s, 40s, 50s, um, where corporal punishment for your kids was pretty standard as a discipline tactic. And she talks a lot about getting whooped by her parents, specifically her mom. And if you grew up in an abusive home, that could be really difficult to read. So I want you to be aware of that. Um, and like, of course, I'll be providing updates as I continue to read this text with you. Um, but another thing that I think that is important just for me to address here um, is that Audre Lorde had an abortion as a young adult. And it was pretty brutal for her because, of course, this was, I mean, this could almost happen now, again, unfortunately. Um, but this was before Roe v. Wade. Um, and so she made it, um, but it was really hard for her. And I think as readers, it's going to be really, it could be difficult to read about also. Um, Now, All Boys Aren't Blue and Zami are, um, I'm going to pause for a minute because I'm going to phrase that in a slightly different way. Um, Zami is about twice the length of All Boys Aren't Blue. So kind of how we're going to be approaching these next few weeks is roughly for every one chapter of All Boys Aren't Blue, we'll be reading and talking about two chapters in Zami, A New Spelling of My Name. So generally speaking, a pretty, like, I would say a pretty sustainable pace. But obviously, like, you're here because you're interested in the topic and not because you're going to get a grade. So, um, like, if you fall behind, that's fine. This is going to be here forever on the internet. So, um, and whether um, like, kind of have the chance to read or not, like, I'm still so happy to have you here, like, adding your comments and adding your voice to this discussion. Of course, I already talked about this, but the journal articles, there's going to be a journal article every week that kind of ties the chapters together in terms of concepts. So the first few weeks, we'll really be spending a lot of time talking about like children in media and how our early experiences in the media that we consume uh, kind of inform our lives as we grow up. So that's something that I'm really excited about. Um, and I'm a little bit on the fence about this, honestly, but in a few weeks, uh, I'm just looking to see when. Um, wow, this is next week already. I believe, or is it? No. Um, Here in about 3 weeks, we'll be talking about like queer readings of children's um children's books, and very specifically talking about where the wild things are. I'm kind of debating, like, reading where the wild things are as part of, like, the live discussion. Um, you guys should let me know. Like, would that be real weird to read a children's book as kind of part of our conversation, or would it be kind of nice? I think it might be kind of nice, honestly. Um, and Where the Wild Things Are is such a great book. um, but anyway, um, that really is kind of what you have to look forward to here for the next 16 weeks. Spending that time with me. Um, you know, Closing out with a little bit of housekeeping. Um, if as we're reading these books, you go, um, I really would like to purchase this, because I'm assuming that most of you are going to be checking these books out from the library or something like that. Um, because it's free, and free is pretty much always in the budget. Um, but if there are books that you want to purchase, um, they are linked in all of the modules. Um, and they're linked in a way where I do get a small commission, without any increased cost to you. So, um, if you think you might want to buy these books, I would appreciate it very much if you use my Linktree link. And anytime that you have questions, like, feel free to comment on the modules or send me a message. Um, yeah, there will be, like, kind of a weekly chat, on Substack, like in Substack Messenger, for folks who are paid subscribers. So if you want to have kind of like a more private conversation that way, that's definitely available to you also. Uh, so thank you guys so much for joining me late on this Wednesday evening, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you next week. I hope you have a great night.